Today, the Statistical Institute of Belize shared the gross domestic product for the year 2022, as well as the data for the second quarter of 2023, which is from April to June. The GDP is the total value of all finished goods and services produced within an economy and are categorized in primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. Statistician Christopher Holtz shares the figures.
The goods and services produced during the year 2022, we have an estimate of $5.016 billion. This is an increase of $402.9 million, or 8.7%, when compared to the year of 2021. Looking at the annual into the three sectors, we observed that primary had a slight decrease of 0.8%. We observe decreases both in agriculture and in mining. At secondary, we had another decrease of 1.9%, where for the secondary, manufacturing saw an increase, but the other industries in secondary saw a decrease. And then lastly, for tertiary, we're looking at a 9.8% increase, and this was driven by increases in wholesale trade, accommodation and restaurant industry, and transportation, followed by the admin and support services, government services, and recreational services.
It is on the backdrop of these annual GDP figures for 2022 that the second quarter of this year is being compared. And according to the data, the economy grew by 2.6%.
The primary sector contributed $90.5 million of this, which is approximately 6.9%. The secondary sector was $192.6 million, which is 14.7%. The tertiary is $859.5 million, which is 65.4%. And then we have taxes at $171.1 million, which is 13%. So that is how the entire $1.3 billion is divided into the three sectors and taxes.
The primary sector decreased by 16.7% compared to quarter two of 2022. Agriculture is down by 11.7%, and mining is down 46.4%. In the agriculture sector, adverse weather, lack of human resources, and pests or diseases attributed to the sharp decline. Sugar cane was down by 18.3%, banana decreased by 40%, and citrus decreased by a whopping 93.1%. Livestock, however, saw an overall increase of 12%.
This was driven by an increase in cattle of 38.6%. Pig saw a small decrease of 3.3%, and poultry an even smaller decrease of 1.7%.
Within the secondary sector, construction increased by 11.2%. Meanwhile, manufacturing, electricity, and water all decreased by 11.5%, 2.1%, and 4.4% respectively. Tertiary increased by 8.9%, or $70.5 million. But how do all these figures affect the cost of goods? Statistician Melvin Perez speaks of the Consumer Price Index from January to August of 2023 and the inflation rate. In a nutshell, the cumulative inflation rate for the first 8 months of the year increased by 4.5%, and it was specifically due to the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages.
The major categories affecting the cumulative inflation rate of 4.5%. First, we have the food and non-alcoholic beverages, with prices increasing by 13.2%. Now, I must mention that this category was the main category contributing to the overall cumulative inflation rate. It was followed by restaurant and accommodational services, with prices increasing by 11.3%. Then we had recreation, sports, and culture, with prices increasing by 7.3%. Followed by the furnishing, household equipment, and routine household maintenance, with prices increasing by 4.8%. Then we had personal care, social protection, and miscellaneous goods and services, with prices increasing by 3%. And lastly, we had the health category, with prices increasing by 3.7%.
SIB is reporting that the transport category decreased by 1.3%, and housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels went down by 0.8%. The basket of goods and services consists of 395 goods and services, and approximately 2,700 establishments were visited. But what about imports and exports? Statistician Tiffany Vasquez says that Belize's imports increased by 1.2% for the first 8 months of this year.
This slight growth in total imports, which resulted from increasing categories being counterbalanced by decreasing ones, does not take away from the fact that most commodity categories experienced noteworthy changes during the period. The crude materials category experienced the largest percentage increase, rising by almost a third, or $7.9 million to $32.7 million, as imports of treated pine lumber continued to be the source of increase in this category. With boosted imports of alcoholic beverages such as tequila and beer, the beverages and tobacco category went up by 10%, or $3.2 million to $35.5 million. Domestic exports for the period January to August 2023 amounted to $311.4 million. This represented a decrease of 9.5%, or $32.6 million when compared to that same period last year.
That decrease is due to several factors, including reduced exports in bananas, citrus, and marine products, as well as the earnings from molasses exports, red kidney bean, and animal feed. Duane, Moody for News 5.